Since the very first day, we've hated you. And since the very first day, we've loved you. Because of that, we breached the wall of severance to be your friends. This is the opening line in every single episode of Yuri Kuma Arashi, the 2015's anime from Kunihiko Ikuhara, the creator of Revolutionary Girl Utena and a whole slew of other shows, very queer shows, deeply steeped in metaphor. Unfavorably considered to be Ikuhara's worst work, Yuri Kuma Arashi is, well, it's my favorite anime of all time. It managed to supplant the greats such as Made in Abyss, Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann, Shinsekai Yori and, yes, even Hunter x Hunter. How did it manage to do that? How did a dumb show about gay bears, the majority of which is excruciatingly contradictory and indecipherable, and what's left is pretty problematic by all accounts, managed to worm its way into my psyche this hard, literally within the first episode? That's the question I'm gonna seek to answer tonight for you, which means this is going to be a personal journey, and it's going to be a stream of consciousness. It's going to be pretty myopic for all accounts. So if you don't care about that sort of thing, I understand. Yo, this is Eminem coming at you from Weeb Revolution. Let me wish you all a very gay Pride Month, and let me tell you about Yuri Kuma Arashi. Growl, growl. Yuri Kuma Arashi is difficult to take in, and it's difficult to talk about. It's deceptive at every angle. As you try to pin it down, it pulls a fast one on you, and reveals that any attempt to focus on one of its aspects is mired in contradictions with the rest of them. And yet, it is not a work of mere cluelessness. It is not The Room or Mayoiga. It's not a disaster piece. It is cohesive and coherent. But that coherency is obscured, occulted in layers upon layers of assumptions and biases. It's a work that knows exactly what it's trying to do. It is nothing short of brilliant. Growl, growl. What I want to show you is something cool, something fabulous, and something very, very sexy. Shabadadoo. It's an amazing work, a brilliant work that unfortunately has to live in the shadow of Ikuhara's other works. So this is going to be, at least in part, me running wild apologetics for a series about gay bears eating defenseless schoolgirls. It's going to be a wild one. Part 1. The plot, or what the hell have I gotten myself into? So let's start with a straightforward synopsis of the plot here. I have that written in the script in quotation marks. I hope that worked in the audio. Because, well, you'll see. Yuri Kuma Arashi tells the story of Kureha Tsubaki, a student of Arashigaoka Academy, which translates to Storm School, and yes, that's important, which is an all-girls high school? Hard to say. In fact, I can't say what the age characters are. Seemingly like 16 or 15, but it's anime, so I don't know. Kureha is in love with her best friend, Sumika, and together they grow lilies in the garden outside the school. That's also important. You know what, fuck it, if I keep interrupting myself like that, we'll get nowhere. So just assume everything is important. The budding romance is interrupted when Sumika is eaten by a bear, before she can confess her love, a fate shared by Kureha's mother. Even more upheaval is caused when two new students appear in the school, Ginko and Ruru. Ginko is Kureha's childhood friend, whom Kureha forgot. Oh, and both of the new girls are bears in disguise. And when I say bears in disguise, I don't mean like bear spirits that can change into humans or whatever. They're just straight up bears in disguise. Like if 3 bears wore a trench coat and we're just one person. Just roll with it, it's gonna be easier for all of us. Bears, you see, are a pivotal element in the Yuri Kuma Arashi world and an existential threat to humanity, who are just girls, remember, not a single male human in the show, as due to a cosmic event, they gained sentience and waged war upon humanity. In response to that, the Wall of Severance was erected between the human world and the bear world, preventing further conflict. All of this is explained at the very start and immediately establishes a fairy-like tone for the series. Ginko crossed the Wall of Severance, so the wall is more of a suggestion than anything else, in order to fulfill a childhood promise and obtain a promise kiss from Kureha. Lulu came with her because she's in love with Ginko and wants to help her on her quest, despite knowing that it would make her love unfulfilled. It is then revealed that, in fact, the school is swarming with bears in disguise who delight in eating human girls, which is sometimes literal, but sometimes it's a metaphor for sex. And actually it's always metaphorical, but sometimes it's got positive connotations and sometimes negative. Hey, I told you this was going to be a wild one, and I think I've done this ass backwards, but fuck it, we're here now, I'm not rewriting this part. Each episode, the Court of Severance residing inside the wall? On the wall? Like Humpty Dumpty? No idea. They just govern the separation between humans and bears, and judge the bears trying to cross the wall by the metric of how cool, fabulous, and sexy their actions are. Which is amazing. That's a fantastic criteria for judgment. Can we just take that as a society? I approve wholeheartedly. Shabba-da-doo. Point of note. The court is comprised of 3 male bears, some of the only male characters in the series. I noticed I broke my sentence structure, and it's a script, I could just go back and redo it, but fuck it, this is a stream of consciousness. So every episode, the court will call upon one of the characters to face their judgment, and each time they ask,
"Do you want to be invisible? Or would you rather eat humans?"
We'll eat. Bring on the humans! Growl, growl!
And every time the characters decide to remain a criminal bear and stay by their true love. Then a very suggestive scene of consuming lily dew happens. That's just a thing that happens, and I don't mind, I'm a crime bear. Growl, growl. For the course of the 12 episodes, the backstories of Kureha, Ginko and Lulu are revealed as they defend against the inscrutable criminal bears meddling with their affairs, and against the school's student body, which consistently seeks to eliminate nonconformity by gaslighting and exiling the girls they find sus, using a tool called the Invisible Storm. That's where the name of the series and the school comes from. Without spoiling too much, because I do hope you watch this one, and trust me, I revealed nothing that you wouldn't grasp from the first episode, that's how wild this is, Kureha and Ginko eventually have to face their final choice between submission to the safe but cruel status quo, or love. Phew, that's the plot synopsis done. Now, you can probably understand why it's difficult to talk about this one. It's not a story I can explain by just talking about the straightforward progression of events and pausing to expand on the themes like I'd usually do. There's just too much metaphor going on for that. This shit requires a holistic approach. So let's now attempt to untangle the various metaphors the series uses to present its themes. We're gonna go point by point. I'll try to be concise, but let's be honest, any hope for that was chucked out the window at the start. Honestly, I'm not sure who even this is for. You either already watched it and know this, you were immediately on board the moment you heard the phrase gay bears, in which case you probably paused and went to watch it, or you're just not sold. So I guess I'm doing this for me, is what I'm saying. This is me gushing about gay bears. Bite me.
Damn it, I'm cool.
Part 2. The metaphor. Growl, growl. I'm gonna have to first explain the big ones here, so from the top. Bears, humans and lilies. A bear in Japanese is a slur used to describe lesbians. The connotation here is that of predation. Lesbians are envisioned as unfulfilled women preying upon young girls. This is where a lot of flack thrown at the show comes from, because one could argue that it does play into that stereotype. However, I would argue that this is less playing into the stereotype and more acknowledging its existence. Yuri Kuma Arashi is largely about our perceptions, and importantly, while there are predatory people seducing young girls, this is less of an inevitable result of them being gay and more of a product of the environment and the division between bears and humans. Conversely, the lilies, or yuri in Japanese, the term the entire genre takes its name from, are seen as a childhood and thus acceptable expression of lesbian love. It has positive but somewhat ominous connotations, because the inherent assumption here is that a girl is expected to grow out of it, lest she risks becoming a bear. The Wall of Severance and its court. The wall is easy enough to explain. It's an all-encompassing metaphor for the alienation queer people face. It's immutable and static, but importantly, crossing it, which just means coming out as gay, is not really difficult per se, although it is risky. Technically, a person can cross it at any time, but they will be treated as a criminal bear. The wall is an artificial construct, governed by male figures of supreme authority who use a ridiculous and arbitrary metric for judgment, and it is the very wall itself that creates the division. We're shown that Ginko and Kureha lived together in their childhood as friends with no issues, so the wall is not a force of nature, it's a social construct. On to the next one. The invisible storm is a bad omen and a forthcoming calamity. The storm is a metaphor for the exclusion used by the girls of the Arashigaoka Academy against those who would show signs of nonconformity. It is a relentless swarm of rumors and a code of conduct that, in effect, enforces the wall of severance. It's a metaphor for the soft power wielded against queer people who face persecution even if on paper they should be enjoying the exact same rights as the abominable straights. Notably, the only real way to combat the storm is to face it head-on, and either be swept by it, or overcome it. Also importantly, while it is a tool of exclusion, it is presented as agnostic, which is to say, while it's used with malicious intent by the student body, it's just a tool. It could be used differently. It is a metaphor for both the enforced conformity of the Japanese school system and the dreaded cancel culture, and the symbolism around it is eerily similar to the Twitter icon. Now I think that last part is incidental, but Zolo insists that it's fully intentional, so I felt like mentioning it. Either way, I agree with Zolo, Twitter was a mistake. These are the big ones. These metaphors form the bedrock upon which the story of Yuri Kuma Arashi is told to us, and its themes explored. In addition, there are some minor metaphors that are nevertheless worthwhile exploring. These would be the Kuma shock, which is a visceral reaction of panic caused by sudden appearance of a bear. It is a metaphor for the reaction straight people, conditioned by the anti-queer world they live in, often have in response to seeing queer people. It is also the reaction a queer person, not sure of their own sexuality, might have in a situation like this. The promise kiss is the final act of defiance against the oppressive system. The kiss is an act of revolution. Admittedly, this is a personal act, and while it can have societal repercussions, it's not a holistic revolution. Alright, that about does it for an explanation. So now, let's talk about Yuri Kuma Arashi, and let's tackle some accusations that have been thrown against it. For the very first time, I will actually not be bashing crypto-fascists here, just libs with an axe to grind with anime in general, so this should be exciting. Yuri Kuma Arashi, at its core, is an analysis of the conditions queer people find themselves in. We live in a system of oppression that idolizes purity and considers deviation to be criminal. The system is so pervasive that it is not possible to live inside it without enforcing it. The act of being gay itself is, therefore, revolutionary. And this revolutionary act has to be acknowledged and embraced as a crime against the status quo that it is. Essentially, Yuri Kuma Arashi is saying, be gay, do crimes. Through the course of its story, certain concepts are mentioned again and again, drilled into your head through repetition. The phrase, since the very first day we've hated you, and since the very first day we've loved you, is repeated at the start of every episode, and with each step on Kureha's journey, this sentiment is enforced. Gay people live in a state of superposition in society. Seemingly, our existence has been deemed profitable enough in some places, at least for now. But we remain an oddity, a commodity. We are loved, but this love is not unconditional. Hatred, however, very much is. Likewise, the repetition of the judgment by the Severance Court represents a constant struggle we suffer. We are always just a step away from being discarded, and we need to reassert the normalcy of our love constantly. Yuri Kuma Arashi is not a sugar-coated story, and its portrayal of queer romance is nuanced. Bigotry can take a toll on a person, and while there is nothing inherently predatory or impure about gay relationships, the power of the system is such that it creates a sort of self-fulfilling prophecy. Beauty, after all, is in the eye of the beholder, and perception is everything. When all acts of love one can commit would be treated as criminal by the society around them, they, in effect, are exactly that. Love unacknowledged by the society at large as normal becomes difficult and tangled, leading to resentments, which are further used by the system as a proof of its claims. It's a vicious cycle. Of course, this isn't different between gay and straight relationships, but it is very easy for the oppressive system to pretend otherwise. Is there a solution to this dilemma? Unfortunately, Yuri Kuma Arashi stops short of answering this question. Its story, despite being metaphorical, is very personal, so while we'd like to venture a guess that the Wall of Severance should be torn down in its entirety, it is easier said than done. Bigotry is not easily solved, and while it's an element enforced by neoliberal capitalism, it is a problem unto itself, one that has to be tackled separately. The only solution the series offers is a personal one. But of course, it is difficult to go against the storm and remain unscathed. Depending on your interpretation of the ending, it might even be impossible. It's tragic, but realistic, and pretending otherwise serves nobody. Nevertheless, the message of Yuri Kuma Arashi, on the whole, is a positive one. Your love will be difficult to express. You will face many challenges, but it's worth being a criminal bear for that love. Still, romanticizing this struggle is a trap unto itself. There is no shame in being scared by the storm, so remember that. Part 3. Addressing criticism. Yuri Kuma Arashi is sometimes staunchly criticized for several of its aspects, and I wanted to address these accusations here. The big one is an over-reliance and overabundance of metaphor. Its detractors claim that using a metaphor is a cop-out. If one wants to tell a story about gay persecution, they have enough real-world examples to do it, which, fair. It should also be possible to just show a story with gay people in it without treating them like a mythological monster. Now this argument I can somewhat acknowledge, but it sort of misses the point. Yuri Kuma Arashi is not a story with gay people in it, it's a story specifically and only about being gay and what that entails. While one could use real-world examples and a straightforward presentation, demanding that is, paradoxically, a form of the invisible storm unto itself. Artists, after all, should have the freedom to tell the story in precisely the manner they want to. And it's especially jarring to levy such accusations against Kunihiko Ikuhara, as using copious amounts of metaphor is his wheelhouse. It's akin to criticizing Da Vinci for painting the Mona Lisa using oil paints. Moreover, while a metaphor is a very efficient narrative tool, as it allows to express a lot of ideas in a small package, it is prone to misrepresentation, and that's what happens here. The series was criticized for playing into the stereotype about predatory gay people, but of course such an argument could only be put forward by a person who has not watched the show, and someone who is either not queer, or managed to not experience the conditions the series talks about. In which case, I want to applaud all these people for living a blissful existence. Your good luck, however, is not an argument against Yuri Kuma Arashi, nor what it can mean to people who do not share it. Here, I decided to be extremely charitable and tackle the arguments that at least make sense to me. Like, they are wrong, but I can see where they're coming from. Yes, a metaphor, when it's the only thing you have, can get repetitive. Yes, I would like more straightforward stories about gay people, thank you very much. But one, it's not like we don't have that, and two, these are not exclusive, you know, we can have both. Also, while I acknowledge that resorting to a metaphor can be suspect, when you're so extra as to turn your entire goddamn story into a string of metaphors, I think I can give it a pass. Ikuhara is clearly not using a metaphor out of some kind of misguided fear, literally all of it is metaphorical, it's just his style. However, there is also a part of this discussion that is uncharitable, and I would not be myself if I did not spend some time talking about it. See, the truth is, we do have straightforward stories about lesbians and gay guys. There are entire genres of that. And yes, while some of it is problematic, and there should be more, we've all fucking seen Sasameki Koto, right? Like, we're aware this exists. This is not an unexplored new fantastic thing. This is not an exotic novelty for you to gawk at. I will hem and haw about the problem of LGBT positive media using lesbians as a shorthand because it can be sold to straight white men as their own gratification till I'm blue on the face. But an overlooked part here is that regardless of that, it is also gratifying for gay people. Here's where I talk about the libs. Part 4. The abominable straights, or please, liberals, stop trying to represent me. Anime is fine, I like how horny it is, go away, growl growl. Now, I'm going to be pretty uncharitable, because there's just not a way for me to say this in a kind manner, and if there was, I wouldn't want to. See, anime is in a tricky position, let's just acknowledge that. It is an entertainment product dominated by catering to a group of permanently childish man-babies, exploiting their insecurities and sexual urges. It is, therefore, a giant clusterfuck of problems. I'm here. I've been here for a while. I know this. But, liberals, can we just talk about you for a hot second? Do you understand just how dumb you all sound when you keep bringing up the character's age and the gratuitous boob shots? Do you understand how silly it sounds when you spend your daylight hours talking about completely innocent shows while a goddamned rape hentai, the 4th best-selling Blu-ray anime of the last season, goes on completely unaddressed? Like, can you all fucking chill? Because your priorities are messed up. Let me explain this in a way that hopefully will make sense. I'm gonna speak slowly and precisely as if addressing a child because you're acting like one. When you bash a series like Yuri Kuma Arashi for its gratuitous, albeit allegorical portrayal of lesbian sex performed by, yes, underage girls, you're not just coming off as a massive prude and not sex positive at all, essentially almost a TERF. That is happening, but that's not the worst of it. You're not just showing how little you know about anime, clearly not being engaged in this type of media, but that is also not the worst of it. What you are doing, in effect, and I hope this one reaches you because y'all love to flaunt virtue, is this. You're telling gay people that they should feel bad for being gratified by a series made for them, for exploring their sexuality. So maybe fucking stop. You are literally being the invisible storm the series talks about. Your intentions here are meaningless. If you do mean well, which I'm not sure you do, but if so, you should just stop. Because you're just enforcing heteronormative conformity. You're just as guilty as goddamn Disney putting a show about a queer kid on Hulu. You are a part of the problem. No, you are the problem. You're a dirty sinner, and you will answer for your crimes. Growl, growl. There, that's off my chest. We're done with that. But I don't want to end this on such a sour note. So, Part 5. You should not sleep on Yuri Kuma Arashi. It's the best show of all time. Growl, growl. If it needs to be stated here again, I shall. You should watch this series. It is dense and it is somewhat mind-boggling. It can be overwhelming, but it's filled to the brim with emotional content. It speaks to the deep recesses of the human psyche about the conditions of gay people, but it is, at its core, a story about love. Unflinching love, unapologetic love, revolutionary love. It's a fairy tale of division and conformity, sins born of our own biases, set in stone by our history and enforced by our social institutions. It's a tale about breaking those asunder and about being yourself. It's a tale about being gay and doing crime. Growl, growl. This was Eminem, and I wish all of you, except the libs, a very gay pride.